it's a very remote place. Like you're in the mountains, and there is a Bitcoin community here. 150 merchants accept Bitcoin in the town. So you can
wow.
Bitcoin. You don't even have to think. It's kind of like Urita in Costa Rica. You can forget about fiat. You don't really need it. Like I don't have any dollars on me right now, for example, but this place I can pay for with Bitcoin. My pupusas I could pay for with Bitcoin. It's very, you get used to it. It's second nature now.
Harry, how are you doing?
Good.
Good to have you on. Yeah, you're all the way in El Salvador.
That's right. Celebrating Pizza Day in El Salvador.
And what were you were saying, what were the little things that El Salvadorian equivalent of pizzas here?
I wouldn't call it an equivalent, but it's close enough for me to say that I've had a pizza for Pizza Day. It's called a pupusa, and it's basically like it's sort of, I don't know how to describe it and make it sound good, but it is quite good. It's like it's like a pancake, right? It's like this kind of big, and it's filled with like cheese, beans, and pork mince, I think. Or you can have one of them or mix them. And then, they serve them to you really hot with some sauce and some like cabbage, I think. And then, you just eat it sort of like with your hands. Pretty good. I had 6 this morning. Nice. It's kind of standard. It's very quick and quite cheap, quite efficient. So it's a kind of staple. Everybody loves them. Like the locals love them. They go wild for them. Yeah. Whenever you turn up to the building site with pupusas, people go crazy.
Is that like the treat?
Yeah, it is. Because it's handy as well. You can get loads of them made, and you just have them all in like a pile, and you just sort of hand out like 1 or 2 each or something. So it's kind of handy, like a bite-sized snack, or a little bit more than that.
Nice. It's well, I need to try it at some point. I need to find a.
Well, you have to get. You've not been to El Salvador, have you?
I haven't. No, and you're giving me way more of a reason to come out.
I can give you more than that.
All right, so
tip of the iceberg, let me tell you.
We're gonna get into everything. I think everyone listening will want to come out after they've heard your story.
Yeah.
It's like that. I've been trying to think where to start because last time, so you've actually been on the podcast like for like a minute or two before when I had Tim Bresnan on, the cricketer, and then we did a lightning we were showing him how lightning works. We did a lightning transaction from the UK to El Salvador back, and it kind of blew his mind. I think a little.
It went perfectly well, didn't it? Because it usually always does, right? So, but the funny thing is, like that was it's interesting having this conversation now, because that was like February probably last year. I was in this same motel because I was here to check out the land that I ultimately bought. I don't think I bought it at that point.
No, you hadn't.
I was here to see it, to see how I felt about this ridiculous project. And so when I spoke to you last, I don't even know if I'd been to see the thinker at that point, but I'd come to this city. Like, this is Berlin. This city is called Berlin because it was founded by Germans.
Not Berlin in Germany, because you really confused me last time.
No, that people get confused. This is a big, like, I've had conversations that's gone on for quite a while where we've both been talking about different Berlins. Yeah. Adding to the confusion, I lived for about 8 years in the other Berlin.
I think that's what confuses me last time.
Exactly. People are like, oh, you've moved back to Berlin. They just assume that that's what's happening. It couldn't be more different. It couldn't be further afield from the other Berlin, like seriously. But it was founded by Germans back when there was like a big booming coffee industry. This place was quite different back then. There's been a lot of political trouble since the height of the coffee industry here. There's been a lot of issues. So hopefully that's kind of like, turned a corner. You get that sense from the people definitely. But yeah, so then like last year, I'd come here to Berlin to see the land, because a friend of mine, a Bitcoiner, he wasn't really a friend because I hadn't met him. The guy who I
So how did you know him?
A friend of a friend. So okay. I used to run, my beginning in Bitcoin is doing Bitcoin meetups in Stoke-on-Trent. which was good fun. It really sort of during the bear market, being stuck in Stoke. I mean, having that meetup to go to pretty much every week was a real highlight. You know, it really was. And I obviously got really close to the guys that came regularly. And one of them, Chris, he put me in touch with Prem, and he knew that I was interested in working in coffee. I wanted to work in coffee. I'd already decided that I was going to sort of revolve. Well, Bitcoin was going to play a role in any next venture I did, and I'm quite entrepreneurial. I've sort of, you know, in Germany I had a business, and I just knew that I just wanted to run it, like go at something, whether it was a cafe or whatever. I just had this feeling that coffee had to be involved, and Bitcoin obviously has to be involved. And then so Prem, when I was in Mexico, I just went there kind of on a whim, getting close to coffee, right? And Prem just said, "How do you fancy buying a coffee farm with me?" And I was like, what a bizarre thing to say. I don't even know you. So I hadn't got a plan, right? So El Salvador is just 2 hours away from Mexico City. And I was like, well, I might as well, you know, I do Bitcoin meetups. I've got to go and check out El Salvador. There's a lot of stuff to see in Central America. I mean, Costa Rica, phenomenal, especially for Bitcoin. Honestly, Uvito, probably the best place I've been to Bitcoin. You can pay for everything, literally everything.
There's so many people moving to Costa Rica that I know.
Right, well, Bitcoiners.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Oh, there's other reasons to move to Costa Rica.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, I was really impressed. Like Bull Bitcoin, the Canadian exchange, has created a wallet over there that just basically allows you to live on fiat free totally. It's phenomenal. Here it's a bit different, like the way that, because here it's come from the government down. Quite interesting to see that happen actually, and like how like the natural response of the people to that, you know, because Bitcoin is then immediately politicized, right? Whereas in the UK, it's kind of anti-political. It's like against all politics, kind of. So that is really interesting to see how, you know, how it develops in these two different sort of environments. Anyway, so I came to El Salvador, and it is obviously, you know, due to its turbulent recent history, more underdeveloped than somewhere like Costa Rica. It doesn't really have the same kind of tourist industry, and it hasn't for a while. Like I said, the coffee industry is nowhere near where it was at its peaks. So I came here, and I was, you know, I looked around Berlin before I went to the farm, and I was kind of like, this is very remote. It's a very remote place. Like, you're in the mountains, and there is a Bitcoin community here. 150 merchants accept Bitcoin in the town. So you can live Bitcoin. You don't even have to think. It's kind of like Uvita in Costa Rica. You can forget about fiat. You don't really need it. Like, I don't have any dollars on me right now, for example, but this place I can pay for with Bitcoin. My pupusas I could pay for with Bitcoin. It's very, you get used to it. It's second nature now. But I didn't really know if I wanted to live somewhere so remote, because, like, as I said, you know, I spent a lot of my adult life in Berlin, in Germany, working in media, working as a photographer in these kind of industries that don't exist here, really. No, they're certainly not in the same way. And I kind of just thought, well, I'm going to miss all of that. You know, I want to be in a big city. I want to be close to those things. So I kind of like, I went to the thinker just thinking, like, probably not. Like, it's worth going to see, but probably not. Then I went, and then I just fell in love. The place is absolutely amazing. I mean, it was totally overgrown and a hell of a lot of work. But I mean, you've seen some of the images that I post. It's just magnificent. The views, the climate, you know, the kind of stuff that grows there. The coffee quality is fantastic. I didn't know that when I bought it, so that was a bit of a shot in the dark, really. It could have gone hard. It could have been like just terrible coffee, in which case I would have had to have found a way of working with that. But we've got a good baseline now. So the areas that are planted, which is probably about 20%, maybe 10, 15% of the land, is specialty coffee grade. With nowhere, and it's been untouched for like 8 to 10 years or something. Zero. It's just overgrown. Like, it's weeds everywhere on the coffee. but it's still producing quite a specialty coffee grade.
What dictates that? I love coffee, but I'm no coffee expert. But like, what dictates like a good coffee grade? Is it the soil?
Oh, it's so many things, as I'm currently learning. I'm learning a lot. It's a steep learning curve because you think you've solved the problem, and then you realize, well, there's another element that affects it. You know, like say drainage. We have amazing drainage here, but some plants don't like that. You know, nutrients in the soil. We've got very fertile soil, but you know that obviously matters. Climate is really important. Altitude is really important because the higher you go, the cooler it is. The cooler it is, the slower the coffee matures and ripens, bringing about more of an intense flavor. So the cherry, which is like a fruit, just like a cherry, has the seed inside, which is the coffee bean that you're used to. The fruit, when it becomes like a grape, you know, like you want to have lots of sugar in there. You want to have it developed and juicy. That imparts flavor onto the bean. Like a healthy plant is, at least it's visible in its fruits, which should look red and juicy. So yeah, they develop more slow at higher altitudes, which is why you get better quality. Usually, you get the better quality coffee at higher altitudes. But there's a lot of other factors like processing. You know, once you get a cherry, you got to process the thing. You can ruin everything. The thing with coffee that's really fascinating to me is from the seed. We've just started planting seeds they'll be big enough for us to plant in the finca during the summertime, during the rainy season. But even from this very beginning, you know, you can screw up something and the plant will grow with maybe a disease or just it can have some sort of long-term issues. Then all the way through to harvesting, you harvest it wrong, you're going to have bad coffee. Then the processing, you process it wrong, you're going to have bad coffee. You know, you get mold, if you don't turn it enough, it'll get mold on it. And then you're going to have this flavor in the coffee and it's going to be bad. And then after all of that, you know, you go and ship it. Well, what if it's been stored in a particularly humid area? That ruins the coffee. What if you store it for too long? That ruins the coffee. And then if you get it all the way to the barista, all of those, you've ticked all those boxes you've ticked, the barista can mess it up.
Yeah. Often than not, they do.
Yeah, you know, they can grind it just slightly too coarse by like a nanometer, and it'll just taste a little bit bitter, right? I mean, okay, I forgot the roasting. Roast it wrong, it's going to be terrible. Roast it too dark or too light or whatever, it's going to be terrible. But also the roasting, you can edit all of this out if you want. The roasting.
I like that. This is the interesting bit.
the roasting, right? It's not just about, okay, let's roast this coffee so that it tastes great. You've got to roast. Each coffee bean has its own character. So the roaster has to respond to the coffee. Like my roaster, what he always says is like, I can only do what your coffee allows me to do, basically, which is kind of hard, perhaps, to get your head around. But anyway, that's one process. And then the barista, like I said, they can pour it wrong, they can grind it wrong, they can have the pressure wrong in the espresso machine. So many things. So this is why, for me, it's an absolute miracle when you get a nice cup of coffee in Europe, for example. I mean, especially when you can pay for it with Bitcoin, which is soon going to be the case with my coffee. In fact, there is now my coffee in London. I found out that it's arrived today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a few bags. It's just like the beginnings of setting up a trade route there. I just sent it with the post, but it's arrived in Clapham.
Nice. I'm gonna have to. I'm very excited.
No, I would say you could get, if you get up to it, you know where I live, then you can go and grab one.
Yeah. No, I'm so excited to actually like try some of this.
I'm really excited to bring it, honestly, because it's such a good coffee, and like I feel like I can't really take too much of the credit because it's just coffee that we harvested it just as it was, processed it, roasted it, and then sent it. So I don't think I can really take too much credit for this coffee until maybe 3 years down the line. You know what I mean? I feel like I'd have to plant the thing to be able to.
And actually like from birth all the way through.
I feel like this is a bit of a sort of premature celebration, but it's at least something, right? You know, it's something to to give us a bit of confidence to keep plowing on
Yeah.
the project.
Like it's such a cool project. Like when you told me that you're doing this, I was like, this is like just so cool. Like just to up sticks and going, because you bought was it abandoned coffee farm, and then
abandoned coffee farm with squatters.
With squatter. What did you have?
Squatters, I mean, they were living on the abandoned coffee farm.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They were living on the abandoned coffee farm. So they are still living on the coffee farm. They're now just kind of family.
Wait, so who? So in the videos, and I'll put a link to like some of the videos that you've put out. Like there's a few of you out there, including a dog as well.
Found a dog in the finca, but it couldn't fairly just opened its eyes, so it couldn't move really.
So you just found it? Like it was an abandoned dog as well?
Yeah, just in the middle of the finca, in a bush. I was like, "What's that noise?" And I could just hear her crying, whimpering, and I went in, and it was just Bruno. It's just there, so small, ready to die. And I was like, "Well," because I had a dog before that, and he got stolen. I went to Argentina, and when I came back, it had been stolen apparently. And then straight away, I found Bruno there. So I was like, okay, well, at least I have Bruno. Yeah, it's nice to have a companion, even if it is making like a difficult project like even more difficult. Because I live in a tent, right? I live in a tent.
Tell me about the setup, because I think it's good for people to like picture that you bought this this coffee plantation, and like what's the current setup and like the current people involved of like running this, and like who are you learning from as well?
Yeah, well, thankfully I'm surrounded by great people who are passionate about the project as well, and that's kind of without that I don't know how it would work. I really don't. It'd be so much more stressful and difficult. It still is stressful and difficult, but like when you have locals that are sort of invested in the project, that care about the project, like Miguel, for example. So Miguel is the farm manager essentially, and he's about 50. He's been here his whole life. He knows that finca. He knew the previous owner. He knows all of the land around it, so he knows a lot, and also he knows farming. He knows agriculture, so he's basically everything goes through him. I'll make decisions with him, and we'll come to agreements together. And not just him. I have an agronomist to help farm as well. So he's coming at it from a more academic angle, more like theoretical. Miguel is coming at it from more of a practical angle. He's got experience in the soil, in the exact soil. He was born right there. So so thankfully, as I arrived, so the guy who I bought the farm with, Prem, we're kind of doing two separate projects there. He's doing the retreat and I'm doing the coffee. So Prem found Miguel. He was staying at his Airbnb, and Miguel, just by chance, said that he used to live, basically, he was born basically there, I think. And he went to school right there by our finca. And he was looking for work. And Prem was like, "You've got a job."
And do you pay him in Bitcoin?
Please help. Yeah. That's another story, because obviously it's you can't, not everybody wants Bitcoin. Not everybody can use Bitcoin. So that's a process. Some things we have to pay for with dollars. But the builder's merchant accepts Bitcoin. So I can build anything I want with Bitcoin. Miguel accepts Bitcoin. And then there's some workers that, if they're a bit older, they don't have a smartphone, maybe they take cash. And then Benedicto, so going back to what was there when I got there, an old water tank. They tell me that it was built in Scotland, actually. A lot of the water tanks here were built in Scotland, yeah.
Oh, really?
Big metallic, how they build ships with the rivets?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was built in Scotland. A lot, even the coffee machinery. I've seen there's a lot of German machinery, but I've seen Scottish machinery as well. I guess.
Oh, really? There was because I know there was a big thing in Panama, um, around the Scots going over.
In Panama.
I think I want to say that they helped build like the canal.
Okay.
But I need to
They
double check.
will have done in some roundabout way because there would have been something that was used there that was built in Scotland. I don't know about any Scottish settlers here. Maybe there were some, but I think it was mostly just trade with Scotland, and also with all manner of European, like with Brussels. Here, there's a big influence in Berlin from Brussels, from Belgium, the architecture, because they used to sell them coffee and they'd sell them building materials. I think something like that. But on the farm, so we've got the tank, and that's kind of beautiful. Actually, I want to convert that into some bodega or something. But there's no electricity, no water, and then and the people that were living there, Elias, he's on his own, 85 years old. I thought he was 95 until I found his ID. He's got some stories. You can imagine the history of El Salvador, and he's sort of seen it all. It's interesting listening to him. But he lives there in a hut. And then Antonio and Benedicto, so Antonio is Benedicto's dad. They live in another part close to Elias. And yeah, when we bought the land, I didn't really. There's so many details to consider when you do something like that. In a way, you kind of have to just look. And this is the Bitcoin mentality, I think. You have to look at the value of some, like, what is the actual, long-term value of something, and then everything else is details, right? So with the land, it was like, is the coffee good? Don't know, but that's kind of a detail because we can improve that. Water, which we're solving right now because I've got an excavator digging a tank, also a problem, but I still think, well, that's manageable. We'll figure it out. How? No idea. But now I have an idea. Electricity, that's an easy one. We've got electricity. And the people that were living on the farm, we were just told, oh, yeah, they're moving out. The last guys, they're moving out. They're going somewhere else. I turned up and I was like, oh, I said, where are you going to? And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, I heard you were moving out. And they're like, what do you mean? So I'm like, okay, I guess they're staying. so now it's been really nice, honestly, because none of this situation, if you had a blank canvas, you wouldn't have chosen to do it like this. No way. You wouldn't. Like Elias, he's been incapacitated. He can walk now, but for about a month, he couldn't walk. He's been in his bed for a month. He just didn't leave his cabin for a whole month. So I have to, look after him essentially. There's a lot of locals that turn up and bring him food and stuff, but it's like as someone to look after. Now he's moving around, but he's just so good for morale because he just seems to always be in a good mood. He's the most brilliant person I've ever met. Nothing phases him, absolutely nothing. But like you wouldn't have picked to like include him in his project. You wouldn't have, but he's there, so we're making it work, And then Benedicto, he's now working with us on a salary, so he lives there and he's kind of taking care of the place, so to speak. So when I'm moving around, there's somebody there looking over it. So that's worked out quite well as well, to be honest. We've sort of made it all work so far.
How does it work with communication? So how's your Spanish?
Good enough. Yeah.
Has it been? What's that been like? Did you have a baseline when you got there?
Yeah, before I came here. So my background is languages. I did a German degree at university in Birmingham. So I've always had an interest in studying languages. I spent 6 months living in France, where I learned French pretty quickly. So before I moved here, I had already started learning a bit of Spanish because I knew that I'd be speaking Spanish. Something told me I'd be speaking Spanish. I thought I'd go and live in Spain maybe, but then obviously Latin America is more interesting. It's bigger. So yeah, I started learning before, and now I'm just communicating. There's a lot that gets missed in translation. It's the and there's pros and cons to that. Like sometimes you're better off. I mean, sometimes you're better off like just you don't need all the details. But then on other occasions, there's a detail like Miguel wanted a chainsaw, and for like weeks I thought he was talking about a motorbike because it's the same word. It's the same word. And I was like, why do you need a motorbike? It's the thinker's like this, and I just couldn't understand. And then he sent a picture of a chainsaw, and like, oh, that makes way more sense.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah, well, I'm guessing you got a chainsaw because I saw and you posted one.
Yeah. Everybody loves using the chainsaw.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're the sort of they're the people that are based on the thinker, and then for me, I built myself a tent. Well, I erected a large tent as we build some buildings, two guest houses right next to each other, and then I'm going to build a house for me. So I'll be moving into the guest house after the tent, and then into the house once the house is completed, hopefully at the end of the summer.
So as the building started, that for people that don't like, it's like a teepee almost, right?
Yeah,
the big tent. It's not just like a camping tent.
Exactly. People refer to it as glamping, but it ain't.
Yeah, it's like total.
It's not. Yeah, I wouldn't call it glamping, but it's a big tent. It's good. Like when I put it up and I put a bed in there, I was like, this is actually really good. And I do actually sometimes, or always, quite look forward. If I go to San Salvador, to the city for a few days, I do look forward to getting back to the tent. It is kind of like home. It's my home. Nowhere else I could call home other than that tent. And then there's the dog. And the dog I had to protect because he was like this. I'd hold him in one hand. So you have to protect the dog all the time, which means I've got to kind of keep him in the tent maybe. But then obviously that's messy. And then other dogs feel like that's an invitation for them to come in. So you have strays trying to get in. And then sometimes I find strays in there. And I'm like, oh, you can't live like this forever. Thankfully, that's coming to an end. 9 more days in the tent.
So the building
Well, I'm back in England in 9 days.
Oh, right. Yeah, so you are.
But you've got to get to that meal with Henry.
Yes, I'm seeing you there. So what do you do when you're back? Like, will everything just be running? You have the farm manager, I can't remember his name, just running everything. Miguel.
Yeah. Obviously, it's not ideal. Even when I'm here, I really do feel like it's much better when I'm on the finca. But I'm only going to be away, I think, for 3 months this time. It's not as bad, and it's the rainy season, which doesn't mean there's still a lot to do. Like a lot of the planting happens during rainy season. But yeah, Miguel will take care of management of it with the help of Benedicto. So yeah, and also there's a few other people. Like I've got an agronomist who's sort of on an advisory role, but he comes at the weekends, so he'll be here tomorrow. I'll go and get him from San Salvador, so he'll be there as well. So between them, hopefully for the 3 months that I'm away, we can just keep moving forward. There's certain stuff that's quite obviously needs to be done. The place is huge. It's huge, and it's had no care over many years. So there's a lot that needed to be cut down. There's a lot, and then you just got a lot of debris, and you can't grow coffee with debris because sort of it's an environment where mold will grow that you don't want. So, and there's a lot of debris at the bottom of the finca that needs to be brought up, or we've got to find a solution to that. But there's a hell of a lot. We're talking years of work before it's anywhere near complete. It's never going to be complete because it's always going to be moving. But for to have everywhere that's sort of perfect environment for growing coffee, it's going to be many years, maybe 5.
What?
Yeah.
So how do you scale that up over 5 years of like, actually it's probably easier. Like what's the grand vision at the end of it for you? And then like, how do you get there? And like, cause I imagine as you're planting, it'll like, you'll be phasing up essentially and like slowly building up production.
Exactly. Yeah. So this year we're just gonna plant in the areas where we've cleared it enough to be able to prepare. So where there's little debris, where there's enough shade. You need another great thing. One thing I love about this project and coffee generally is that you grow coffee in the shade. So it's a really diverse ecosystem. You have massive trees, like providing a canopy of shade, and then you'll have like banana plants that sort of provide lower shade. So there's this. It's a beautiful place to work actually, and to be. But there are areas now that we can just sort of quickly clear plants, a certain amount of coffee plants, another area as well. So we'll do it like that, and then as we grow, as we sort of clear more areas, we'll plant in those areas until the whole place is full of coffee. Yeah. That's
And then
the grand vision, to get the whole place full of coffee, and then bring it to Europe, sell it directly to the consumers for Bitcoin, and have the whole supply chain in Bitcoin. And it feels like we're really not that far away from that. Like it all feels so it feels so achievable now. When I first started the project, it was like a bit of a pipe dream, you know. But I don't know. It feels very achievable because the coffee's in London now. I mean, just go and buy it for sats. Like transport, like transit, you know, paying in Bitcoin for that, still the kind of missing jigsaw piece. But I think like to be able to influence that, you need more volume and probably more coffee growers, producers involved. And there are like this project in El Salvador, this Bitcoin project it's a runaway train. You know, you might have noticed recently people talking negatively because of this IMF deal and the fact that you're no longer forced to accept Bitcoin as payment by the government. That was never enforced anyway. So that's kind of totally irrelevant. People from like Europe or the US who haven't lived here perhaps don't quite understand, you know, it's a different culture. People respond differently to the government here than perhaps people do in England. So there's a lot of coffee producers that I know that really recognize that Bitcoin is something that they need to be incorporating. Some people are making it very visible, like they've branded their whole thing on Bitcoin. Choritos is the name of one guy who I know, Jorge. Like he's got, you know, Satoshi Blend, and he's got farms and stuff. And he's also trying to grow like a community of farmers that all abide by certain ethics, which involves, you know, no use of chemicals or at least minimal certain ways of producing the coffee. But he also says to me one of the pillars is being a Bitcoiner. So he's got these farms involved and they all have to be Bitcoiners to be involved with him. And he wants me to be involved as well. So this is something that's definitely interesting. And it's, you know, and there are other farmers that I know that are just totally not connected to that want to know about Bitcoin. And there's other farmers that have come to me and they're like, just eager to get working with Bitcoin and with export. And obviously there's not many English people here, especially English people who work in coffee. So in a way, I suppose I represent like a connection with England, right? And people, they want to sell to England. So it feels like there's a good opportunity for scaling in terms of bringing Bitcoiners on board with working together sort of thing.
Yeah, that will probably make the exporting easier, because if you all came together and exported, I don't know if this would work, but exported as one in bulk,
exactly.
It just makes it a lot more appealing to that supply chain of however you're getting it over to the UK, or Europe.
You have to condense your, you know, You have like it's the same with the retail end. I think like Tooting Market, for example, when you have a convergence of like Bitcoin merchants or anything Bitcoin related, enough people come in or attracted to it to make it worthwhile, right? So you need that convergence to make it work, I think, and it's going to be the same with exporting as well. And also the great thing is, from my perspective, like my experience of working with people who are in the Bitcoin space, is pretty much immediately I feel like on a level I can trust someone if they're full on, if I recognize that they're a Bitcoiner, like a full on Bitcoiner. Like there's just, it deals with a lot of, you know, the things that would take usually, I don't know, a few years to build up with someone. I kind of feel like it expedites that process a little bit. I bought the farm with Prem before I'd even met him. I made the decision, I think, before I'd even met him. And if he wasn't a Bitcoiner, then it wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have done it. And look where I am now, like the thing's like motoring along. So it's so far so good with my sort of senses with regards to working with Bitcoiners, I would say.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with that. There's a
more or less.
Yeah, like I agree that like you tend to, you can get a sense if someone is into Bitcoin, if they are really into Bitcoin, by just a few questions. And then you just know that they put in some work and that they're a grafter, really. Like that's all it kind of comes down to.
But I also think it's the time horizon. What I'm noticing with a lot of my Bitcoin, I've got a lot of Bitcoin friends now, and coming out to Latin America has been great because I've met them in Mexico, Costa Rica, obviously quite a lot in El Salvador. But what I find is when I make a proper Bitcoiner friend, it kind of feels like we're going to be friends forever because Bitcoin's going to be here forever. It's not a passing fad. Like we're all in it forever, aren't we? And when you all have that sense of just, and it's a kind of a community, right? So you can't get out of it. You know, like if you'd want to get out, you can't really. You're in the Bitcoin. It's like not a family, but it's a community. So yeah, it feels like you're gonna be with these people for a long time, and that's a really good foundation for building anything. If you know that ultimately you're still gonna have to face each other, it's conducive to, I think, a good working relationship. That's what I've found so far, and it's not as if I've lived abroad. I lived in Germany. You know, I've worked in different industries. I've done many different things. I've lived in France as well. So I have experience of like being in like communities, you know, whether it's art, photography, fashion, whatever. And like never have I come across one like the Bitcoin community, you know. And it is that sense of, I think, time horizon. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah. And the nice thing is that it's global as well, of like wherever you go, you can kind of connect with someone just on that initial thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like, you know what? Because like if you meet someone at a bar, this happened to me in Mexico. I was at the Bitcoin Embassy bar. I met up with a guy who I met on the Orange Pill app, and as we were discussing, a guy sat over there, chipped in because he heard us talking about Raspberry Pis, and he was like, "Oh, I don't suppose you're Bitcoiners?" And we're like, "Yeah." So I get his number, and then I ask him if she wants to go to the gym with me a few days later. You wouldn't do that with a random person you meet in a bar, would you? That'd be weird.
That'd be so weird.
Like, should we go for a run? You know, this kind of like, it's too much. You're like, oh, this guy's a creep. But with Bitcoiners, it makes sense somehow. Because we know, okay, nice to meet you. You've got things to talk about. He knows people I know. You know, you've got similar jokes, got sort of in jokes, sort of stuff. So that is, I think, such a new thing, really, that's quite exciting.
Yeah. And like, what I like is like you've got this connection with someone just on like the one topic of Bitcoin, but then everyone else has their passions outside of that, and you can like learn about them and like actually what they like. Because for you, like your passion is like coffee, and I would say photography as well is a big one.
Yeah.
And like that's really interesting maybe for someone else that's a Bitcoiner and learning about all of that. And like in a community that becomes very valuable. All of those different skills coming together.
Yeah, when you're all trying to achieve sort of a similar goal in a way, and that's even more emphasized here in Berlin because we are very much a community, and everyone just sort of takes care of each other, I suppose. Everyone's got each other's backs. Everyone's kind of pulling in a vaguely similar direction. I think that's what it is. I think that's all a community needs, and I think that's kind of been lacking, right, in a lot of, at least where I grew up. You know, it's not very clear that we're all pulling in exactly the same or similar direction. There's a lot of forces in a lot of directions, right? So at least with Bitcoin, it just gives that one sort of, that one thing that's just like unites you all.
Do you think you would have done this without Bitcoin? So I think I was having a conversation with someone else on the podcast of like Bitcoin, because you're lengthening your time horizon, and you're moving into this, let's say, new system, monetary system, then it allows you then to follow your passion a little bit more and actually do what you want to do and like free your time up to actually do what you love doing. And for me, that's kind of looks like what you're doing. And like, essentially the question is like, has Bitcoin allowed you to do this?
I think it just supercharged that tendency within me, basically, because I've always tried to sort of tread my own path, I suppose, against advice from parents and society. So the chances are I would have ended up doing it. But the thing with this is, though, I think Bitcoin just helped me understand how to find value. Honestly, I think that's what it is. I don't think I would have decided to go into the coffee industry by buying a farm if I hadn't discovered Bitcoin, because the farm, right, that's the base layer. That's how I see it. That's the base, the raw material, that's the base layer. If you don't have control of that, well, how do you know you're ever going to get your coffee if you have a cafe? What if everyone just decides not to sell you coffee? You can't do it. So for me, this realization that for me to go into coffee, I need the base layer. That's Bitcoin that taught me that. So in a way, yeah. And obviously El Salvador as a location wouldn't have, I don't know if I would have seen opportunities here if it weren't for the fact that there's already quite a lot of Bitcoiners here, and that I could use Bitcoin more freely here than anywhere else. I think that's a big factor as well. So, but I mean, I was at the point in my life where I'd left Germany. Brexit happened, then COVID happened. I left Germany just at the point of COVID happening, and I went back to the UK specifically because I sold my business in Germany, which was language-based, and I came back to the UK specifically to build a house because my dad's a builder. He's a quantity surveyor. So I thought now is the time for me to really start learning some practical skills. So I did that, sold the house, and then it was like, could do anything, go anywhere, right? Nothing tying me down. So that's why I came out to Mexico. But discovering Bitcoin and Bitcoiners, it's honestly though, it's also the Bitcoiners that you meet. Like ultimately, after you've been through the whole process of understanding it and using it and incorporating it into your lifestyle, at the end of all of that, what you're left with is the community. And that's the best bit. And I think anyone who's listening to this, who's like a Bitcoiner, but not afraid to meet Bitcoiners or whatever, we've all been there. I would implore you to just go and meet some Bitcoiners, because you'd be surprised at where it can lead.
And like the conversations, the caliber of people and that I have when I meet up with people that are into Bitcoin is like, it's not what I actually thought before I was really into it. Like, it's totally different. Like, you actually, I don't know how to phrase it, of like, I quite like digging into people's, like, what they do and like how they're incorporating Bitcoin into their into their lives, but it's not necessarily that's their life. It's maybe they've got a business and they've just bolted this on, or maybe they're just not. Maybe they're just stacking.
Yeah,
Everyone's different.
yeah. There's all different types of Bitcoiners, that's for sure. But yeah, certainly when I first started doing the meetups in Stoke, my goal was just to have somebody that I could talk to about this thing, right? That I discovered. I just needed to, because none of my friends were interested. So I needed to make new friends because that's what I wanted to talk about. My actual friends didn't want to hear it. And then, yeah, from there, like you said, you meet all kinds of people, all sorts, not just technical people. In fact, quite a lot of people who are not technical, but they just get it, right?
Yeah, I'm not technical at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, but at some point I kind of became so obsessed with Bitcoin that I did teach myself a whole lot of stuff that I would never have taught myself. I was using command line in my computer to write stuff, and I was like, and that's in the space of 1 year of like nothing to like really just like getting into the nitty gritty of how a computer works. Just because of Bitcoin, I got so passionate about it.
It's weird the rabbit holes it takes you down. Like I was looking, I never thought as a kid I'd be like looking at like how the national grid in the UK works and like how it's all interconnected. When it comes to like the mining side of things, I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah, actually, you just reminded me. Before I came here, when I was building a house in Stowe, I realized I wanted to work in Bitcoin. And at one point, I was looking at computer science degrees in London, and I'm like, I don't even have an A level in maths. How the hell am I going to do a computer science degree? And the other one was going into electrics and working with like power plants and incorporating Bitcoin in that. I was really genuinely looking at this on my spare time, seeing if I could do some course that could get me to a position where I could involve myself in something like that. So there's all kinds of stuff that I was thinking about before I landed upon coffee. But
this is where it's taking you. What's the what do you call it? It's not a plantation. What's the word you're calling it?
Finca is just a Spanish word for farm, so we just call it finca, and it's called La Cruz, which means crucifix. There's at both ends of the farm there is cross. Quite significant for the local community, it seems. On Easter, they had a whole parade around one of them with flowers. Very beautiful. So
yeah. Well, I've got another question now. How has it been for you integrating into the community? Like, I don't know if gringo's still is that?
Well, I always tell them because they assume just gringo. I always say I'm not a gringo. I'm English. It's different. Because the gringo just means American, I guess.
Does it?
Yeah. But like you have expats in Berlin, and you have English speakers. You have and then there's overlap as well. So there's locals that are involved with the Bitcoin. Obviously, the reason this is a Bitcoin hub is because two people, Evelyn and Gerardo, who are from El Salvador, they moved here and set up the Bitcoin Center and started to push local merchants to adopt Bitcoin. And now, I think 2 years later, 150 merchants accepting Bitcoin. So that's quite an achievement. But my farm it's out of here. Like it's a different kind of village area, whatever you want to call it, region. And I am the only there isn't another European around there until you get to the city. Not that I've seen. I'm kind of isolated, or I have been. The first few nights that I was there, I just didn't know what to expect, and I was kind of afraid, to be honest. I was just sleeping in a hammock on this farm that I just bought, and there was people living there right next to me. I didn't even know them at all, right? And then just like gradually, I think I keep going to the same shop. I have my breakfast there. I buy stuff there. They now accept Bitcoin as well, thanks to Prem, not me. So I think as is human nature, people used to like stare at me a lot because it's totally, different from the rest of them. I'm becoming a bit more, I think, just part of the furniture. I think people are just used to me now. And other way around. And now, obviously, because I employ a lot of people, there's a lot of people working there on the farm and building. So through them, I think that's been a great help, because through them, I get, the people that they know kind of, know about me, and I can get introduced to people through them, or through Benedicto. He's got like 8 siblings and about 150 cousins.
Bloody hell.
So he knows. So everyone here, we drove in the other day to pick something up, and he was saying hi to everyone, and I was just like, "Familia." He was like, "Si, familia, si, familia, si." So for me, that's great, right? Because then me and him trust each other. We've been living side by side, so kind of like family. So through him, I get to meet people, and people get used to me, I suppose. But I love it. I really enjoy being in these situations. I think, like, I've lived as an expat most of my adult life in Germany and France, so I just find it really exciting, really, really interesting to like learn a foreign culture from like within, like right in the middle of it. And this is even more interesting than the others because it's so different. It's really quite disconnected from the culture and the cultures that I have been used to up until now, essentially European. So that has been fascinating, to be honest. And let me tell you, the locals have been fantastic as well. There's been no hostility. There's been everyone seems really supportive, really supportive. Actually, I think they're and we work well together. We have good working relationships. There's good banter. Honestly, banter is the main thing. That's why I think it's on a level with English banter. I don't know if you've ever been on a building site in England, but it's kind of similar kind of stuff. And that's kind of, you don't want to go to work unless there's a bit of banter or anything. So that's good.
What's it like? Because you're talking about like the culture and stuff, and we touched on it a little bit of like the media here portrays El Salvador maybe differently to what it's like there.
Mm-hmm.
Because like at the moment, that IMF stuff, there was stuff around that, but then lots of YouTubers are going there and reporting on the gang clearing up, or the gangs getting arrested and all of that. What's your like perspective actually being in the country, and like what's the sentiment around just like the country in general?
On the whole, I would say anybody who was previously affected by the gangs is happy that there are no longer any gangs. And that's a lot of people, And the fact, so like your business, you couldn't really, I spoke to a taxi driver, and he told me that, I don't know whether it was him or his brother, had a business. It's constantly having to pay the gangs essentially just to keep them away. So it's like this hidden tax. But, if you don't pay, the results are pretty extreme, I suppose. But generally speaking, yeah, I do look at mainstream media every now and then. It's a lot of talk now about the prisons and now the relationship with the USA. Well, I don't know. It's not for me to say really, but all I can say is the people here seem a lot safer, and the country feels like, it's so safe now. Because I've been so preoccupied with just got my head down and just been working on stuff and traveling around. I stopped thinking about whether or not I was in danger, because I never am. So I just drive to a random place on the way between San Salvador and here. I'll perhaps just stay overnight to some random place. And so, like recently, I just got out of the car, walked down the road, and I thought to myself, when I first got here, this would have seemed terrifying to me. But now I know the people and I've been around a bit, I'm starting to realize I'm a lot safer here than I am in a lot of parts of Europe, honestly. I'm talking even in where I was born in Stoke, there are places there that you don't want to just go and leave your car and walk away. You just wouldn't do it, I don't think. I wouldn't want to do it. Here, I just think, it feels safe. So that I can't stress that highly enough. Like you are safe when you come here. Much more so than other Central American countries, for sure.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear. This perspective inside. what's the last time I was with you, you were thinking about, and this was way before you'd done all this and you'd bought the farm, and I think it was before, but we were in London and you were thinking about potentially having a cafe, and like, is that still a plan of like having the whole supply chain essentially?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I want to be selling my branded coffee directly to customers in London. That's the overall goal.
So where are you going to base yourself? Are you going to like try and do?
I would rather base myself here.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like my time is better spent here.
it looks amazing.
Yeah, I feel good here, honestly, and it's hard to describe the feeling you have on a day-to-day basis when you're just building stuff with like working with the builders here has been great as well. They work fast and they're very responsive, so it's a good working relationship, and just being able to just get stuff done. Whereas in Europe, yeah, it's harder to get as an entrepreneur. There's so much that puts you off going down that route. I think that anyone with an idea and the drive, they can start, and then very quickly through bureaucracy or whatever, like, or they start and then like, I don't know, too much to pay for like taxes or regulations or whatever. Here it's a bit more free. I think feels a little bit more free, and that day in day out living with that mentality is it opens you up a little bit. I think it sort of changes your perception. It's yeah, I've really enjoyed the process, to be honest. But
I've
yeah,
been,
what the question?
I was just like, I've enjoyed following along and watching it, and like how much are you trying to document it as well? Because like you're really good like photographer and film maker, or from the videos that I've seen, like I couldn't do anything like that. Like how much are you trying to document the whole process as well?
As much as possible. As much as possible. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm an artist trying to express myself, and I have a project through which I can express myself. Really, that's kind of how I see it. But it's hard work, being all of those things at the same time, being an artist and being a farmer, and then also trying to sell the coffee. There's a lot of different things that a lot of different approaches to those things, and also even the people you deal with, like in the arts. I'm collaborating with people, especially the film that we made. That was a joint effort. But working with them is obviously quite different from working with the workers on the farm. So I'm trying as hard as I can, and I'm trying to delegate stuff as much as I can so that I have more time to present what I'm doing, because I really want to present what I'm doing here in a appealing and creative way. Because I do think that one of the reasons for me doing this, and one of the driving forces, is I want to inspire. Right, I want to inspire people to, I don't know, just I don't know what it would be, but like just try and find a way of building something that feels insurmountable. That's kind of what I want to inspire people to do, really, because everyone's just making it up as they go along, essentially, and especially within the Bitcoin world, there's a lot of talent and there's a lot of opportunity, and I hope that me doing this and presenting it properly and well can inspire people to do, I don't know what else, something similar.
Yeah, it's following. I mean, because it inspired me that like you've followed your passion essentially. And like that's why I was digging in. Like, has Bitcoin allowed you to do that? Because I think that's opening up for a lot more people.
Right.
That it has. For many people, is now they're allowing. It's allowed them to have a bit more time to think and actually think about the long term, right? And like what they want to do in life. Because as you said, everyone's just making it up as they go along. Nobody's got this sorted.
Yeah, you can, and with Bitcoin as well, you can achieve bigger things because the chances are, along the way, you're going to meet people who can do the jobs that you can't do. That's what it comes down to. For example, Prem, he has different skills from me. We have similar values, similar direction, but we have different skills. You know, he's good at doing barbecues for many people. We had a barbecue for 40 people when he was here.
Wow.
And he says to me, okay, can you do the pasta? 40 people. And I was like, I don't know what you even, how do I even start thinking about it? We don't even have a proper kitchen, you know. But we did it. We made it happen, right? On this farm in the middle of the night, we cooked all this meat. And we had all the workers and their wives came, and it worked out. And I couldn't have done that without Prem, you know. So I'm grateful that he sort of steps in to do that. So, and with other stuff as well, you know. Now when I meet someone and they're interesting and they've got a project and they need something doing, chances are I know someone in the Bitcoin world that can help them, right? And you might be the same as well. So then it's straight away connect, right? And then they notice that they've got friends in mutual, boom, off we go. And it's happening the other way around as well. Like somebody called me the other day who wants to work in coffee. He's in Europe. And he said, oh yeah, I got your number from guys that living in Berlin. They said that you're growing coffee and you're a Bitcoiner. Let's do business. And here we are. Now we're talking about it, you know? That is big. That is just because of Bitcoin, right? You know, that's that, like, because imagine if I didn't have Bitcoin now. Okay, the project is still like interesting because it's kind of unique, but it would be a lot harder. It wouldn't flow as naturally as it seems to be doing now. I don't think without the Bitcoin element, and also the market. I mean, all of my sales so far have been to Bitcoiners pretty much. Like maybe 85% of sales have all been in Bitcoin. That's roasted coffee to the end user.
It's like marketing as well, is what you're getting. But are you saying that you're integrating Bitcoin into everything that you're doing in this process? And then a Bitcoiner's gonna be like, okay, I want to buy from you.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good market to have just off the bat. And they're brutally honest. They'll tell you exactly if they like it or not. And that's good because they don't want you selling bad coffee. Like they don't like if my packaging, if I show them iterations of the logo design and stuff, because they want me to do well, they're going to be bluntly honest, you know, instead of like, yeah, it'll do. Yeah, it's okay. No, they'll tell you, no, it's rubbish. Do something else. And that's valuable as well. That's valuable. Really valuable.
100%. Right. Well, I'm going to get you back on at some point to give like, I kind of want to almost document this as well of like, I don't know, every like 6 months or something. We just like get updates. I think could be quite cool.
Next time we'll have Starlink on the farm and we can do the interview from there.
Nice. We could walk around maybe and like actually see it.
Yeah.
Let's mix it up.
Yeah, that would be good to see the development. And hopefully, 6 months is a long time out here. We can achieve a lot by then. So
yeah,
I'll see.
Yeah, I'm keen for that. And I'll put, for everyone that's like listening and like and is inspired by it and like wants to see and follow, like I'll put all the links down below to you, to like the short film you made, and everything else that you want me to throw in there.
Appreciate it.
But yeah, I appreciate you coming on, man.
We have 2 Bitcoin conferences here in November, Adopting Bitcoin in San Salvador, and then here we've got Economy of Bitcoin that follows that. So anybody that's considering at some point visiting El Salvador, perfect time, because I'll have tents set up on the finca so we can have accommodation. I'll be doing tours probably of the farm. we'll also be harvesting. Anybody who wants a job, I'll get them harvesting. We always need more people. And also obviously tasting the coffee. So I think it would be a good opportunity for people if they want to get out here.
When is that?
November, middle of November.
Right. I'm tempted.
Time to prepare and to plan.
I do need to get out there. I'll start making plans.
Yeah, that would be a good starting point for sure.
Yeah. Right. Awesome, man. Yeah. Thank you for coming on, and well, I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
A couple of weeks, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome, man.
Thanks.